Thank you everyone for joining us here tonight. My name is Nikki Lefebvre and I'm the Executive Director of the Natick Historical Society. We were established in 1870 and today we remain an independent nonprofit. We really thrive on the support of community members, and so I really want to just take a moment to thank all of our supporters for helping make programs like these available and free to the public. So a silent Zoom round of applause to all of you. Thanks so much. Tonight, we're delighted to have with us Swati Dave, who will give a talk titled A Culture Marker, the Story of Kolam and Natick Center. So without further ado, let me introduce our guest, Swati Dave. Swati is a longtime resident of Natick and is actively engaged in the town with diversity, equity, and inclusion work. She is proud of her Indian heritage and has really taken the initiative to create awareness of India's rich culture, values, and traditions through town-wide celebrations of festivals like Holi and Diwali, and by hosting dance recitals and art projects and musical programs with the help of the Natick Center Cultural District, Spark Kindness, the Natick Historical Society, the Morse Institute Library, and the Common Street Spiritual Center. And if you've been in Natick, living in Natick, you've probably attended one of these wonderful events. I know I have and enjoyed them thoroughly. But in her professional career, Swati works as a project management consultant in the field of educational publishing and e-learning. And she is the founder and CEO of a global nonprofit with a vision to bring about a paradigm shift in math education worldwide using the ancient Indian knowledge system. And if anybody can do it, Swati, I think you can.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you. Can you hear me okay, Nikki? Is this okay? Yeah. Oh, yep. Thank you so much, Nikki. And welcome everyone who are here today to listen to this talk on Kōlams. Thank you, Natick Historical Society, for giving me this opportunity to talk about Kōlams in general and about the art of Kolam in Natick downtown. So when we talk about Kolam, let's understand what is a Kolam. Kolam is a curved line patterns drawn at the entrance of a household in Tamil Nadu. Now, where is Tamil Nadu? Tamil Nadu is a state in India on the southern border. And it is drawn using rice flour, chalk powder, or rock powder. It's an everyday ritual. Each dawn, millions of Tamil women create intricate designs at the thresholds of their houses, temples, and businesses also. And this is done as a tribute to Mother Earth. A Tamil word that means beauty, form, play, or disguise. A kolam is anchored in the Hindu belief that householders have a karmic obligation to feed 1,000 souls. By creating the kolam with rice flour, a woman provides food for birds, rodents, ants, and other tiny life forms, greeting each day with a ritual of generosity that blesses both the household and the greater community. Kolams are a transient form of art. Every day, every morning, a new kolam is created with the same combination of reverence, mathematical precision, artistic skill, and spontaneity. Now the question comes is, does this art form only prevalent in south of India in the state of Tamil Nadu? The answer is no. This art form is practically practiced in all the other parts of India with different means. What people know mostly or commonly is Rangoli, which is known as in Gujarat, Karnataka, and Maharashtra, but with the same ethos, with the same concept, with the same principles. This art form is practiced in all parts of India. Today, you will find this kolam has taken a new meaning and been used as an art form in creating as designs in jewelry, in wall hangings, on fabric, So Kolam is now kind of very similar or ubiquitous with the art form that you could find almost everywhere in different ways. What's the history of Kolam? When did this Kolam actually origin? What's the history? Again, it's always very difficult to have one source of information or what we call as the truth. The prevalent stories of Kolam is that it has its origin in Vedas, and Vedas are the ancient Indian scriptures. And in Vedas, the mention is that the Kolams were used as lines or drawings which were made in front of yajna or homam or fire altar, as we call it. There's also the reference of Kolams in ancient Indian epics of Mahabharata and Ramayana. In much later dates, Kolam is listed as one of the 64 forms of art in Vatsayana's Kama Sutra. And this art form is called as art of organizing rice and flowers. The most dear story for me, or the dear concept of Kolam for me, is some of the art historians believe that Kolams originated from people who lived on the seashore, who invariably found a design in the arrangement of stars, which remained a guiding factor when they ventured into the sea. The celestial designs of stars were brought to terrestrial thresholds of force in the form of this magical art form called Kolam. The first reference is found in Tamil literary work, such as the 16th century Madurai Meenakshi Ammai Kuram. But the practice of drawing this Kolam on the floor dates back to 1600 years onward. And today, if you visit India and see some of the ancient temples, you will find the Kolam design in some of the carvings. Now to get deeper into Kolam, what are the different types of Kolams? The three different types of Kolams are Padi, Puli, Sikku or Kambi. These are Tamil words where Padi means steps, and Tamil words, again, Tamil is one of the most ancient Indian language, which is spoken today, even today in the southern state of India, Tamil Nadu. So Padi means steps, Pulli means dots, Sikku means knots, and Kambi means wire. As we understand each of these Kolams, we'll understand what's the significance of these names. Let's look at the first one, the Padi Kolam. And as we said, Padi means steps. So what happens in Padi Kolam is, first the center is marked with a cross or a dot, and then the pattern is designed or developed step by step using geometric patterns of squares, rectangles, circles around it. Symmetry is very important for Padi Kolams, and most of the time, Padi Kolam is also decorated with an outline using a red paste called Kavi. Puli Kolam. Puli Kolams are most, I would say, basic or the simplest form of Kolams. Here, it's simple as joining the dots. You make the dots and you join them to form beautiful designs. The placement of dots is important here. You will see that on the left-hand side, you have an hexagonal pattern of the dots, whereas on the right-hand side, you have a square pattern. You can make hexagonal, square, triangular, rectangular. The number of dots will determine how big or how small your Kolams are. So this is one of the very commonly found patterns of Kolams across all of India. The third one, as we call it, is Sikku or Kambi Kolam. And now when I say Sikku means knots and Kambi means wire. These are also a top type of Puli Kolams where you do use dots. But the difference between Puli Kolam and Sikku Kolam is, in Sikku Kolam, you're drawing around the dots and not connecting the dots. They're drawing and again, what we see in Sikku Kolam as they're drawn as continuous closed curve, so that all the dots are encircled and no line can be traced back. They become increasingly complex with a large number of dots. And I have seen some super complex Kambi Kolams. And remembering the dot configurations and line orbits is a daily exercise in geometric thinking. As Nikki mentioned, I am into using ancient Indian mathematics, ancient Indian knowledge to teach math. I do use kolams to teach right from elementary to the higher education or the undergrad students, where we start with simple things about shape of the numbers, symmetry. I teach tessellation, fractals, graph theory. So again, I don't want to get into math, but just telling the concept of Kolam as how important, it's not just an art, but an important ethnomathematic tool for me too. So now comes connecting that Kolam to our traffic calming public art in Natick. I think around October or November 2020, there was this call for artists from Natick Center Cultural District. And they had identified this 5 to 6 spots in Natick Common, and they had invited artists to submit a design And the only guideline that they gave us were projects may include street paintings that are bold and bright in design while still being respectful of the place. As soon as I saw this, the first thing that came to my mind was how beautiful columns would fit in there. Because columns are floor drawings. So I mean, I'm not even kidding as to how beautiful that whole concept was for me. But as I know many people know me and they know that I'm not an artist. So I thought, oh, it's beautiful to have columns there, but who is going to design it? Who is going to really bring that idea into a reality? I'm blessed with great friends. So one of my friends, Gauri, at that point of time, she was in Philippines. Now she's moved to India. She's an amazing artist and a great social entrepreneur also. So I spoke to her, and she being my friend, she too got excited. So we started talking about what do we do? How do we make this? Would we do 1 column? Would we do 3 columns? Would it be just 1 big column? So we were discussing as to what would just work for bringing this art form to Natick. And we were trying to see connection. This is one indigenous art form from India. Well, how do we connect it to a small town in New England? And as we were discussing what is so special about Natick? What's so special about New England? The first thing that came to my mind was the 4 seasons of New England, which is so distinct. And Nikki, we were just talking about the seasons in India, right? Like where we have just summer, we move to monsoon, we come back to summer again from the part where we go. So for us, these 4 distinct seasons of New England are really, really very enjoyable, beautiful, and we all have experienced this beautiful seasons in Natick Center. So we decided that we would take this as our central theme of 4 seasons in Natick, in New England. And we came up, these were the initial drawings from Gauri. So we talked about fall, spring, winter, and summer. And as we go into the next slides, you will understand how what was the thought process, or what is the design elements, and what was the concept behind each of this drawing. But I just wanted to bring this. These were the initial drawings from Gauri, and this was so real to me. Like she literally brought my vision into a reality by giving me these drawings. So as we go deeper, so the first one depicts is, and then we put in colors to it, obviously. So the first one that depicts is the fall, the colors of fall, were used here. And during the month of fall, which is October, November, is one of the most important Indian festival of Deepavali. So we use Diwali or Deepavali theme, combined it with fall colors, and use the design of Padi Kolam geometrics designs, and came up with this design. And if you see, you also see the small earthen lamps there, which are kind of, again, inclusion of diyas to depict Diwali. After fall comes winter, and it was a no-brainer that for winter we would use a snowflake, right? So this was again used. We use Sikku Kolam here, which is one continuous line where the lines go around the dots. And for summer, no-brainer again, sun. Again, the concept was Sikku Kolam, and with the sun in the center. Sometimes I'm even asked as to how do we decide what to draw every day morning, right? Like, is there a framework? Are there rules? Do you do particular drawings on some day? Do you not do something? So the answer, again, like everything, is yes and no. It's not like a fixed rule, but then there are kolams which are associated with certain festivals, certain days. And for me, I also look at kolams as infographics, because you would know, like, right? Like if a Surya kolam is drawn in some of the traditional parts, you would know that it's Sunday. So you can also think about it and put a lens, so think of it as an infographic. There are certain kolams which are associated even with the events, like the birth, the death, marriages, or something like that. Like if there's no kolam, I wouldn't say, like, if there's no kolam on the threshold, people will assume that something bad has happened, like, something unfortunate event has happened there. So there is a study, there is a research paper, I keep continuously reading this, like kolam as infographics, So this Surya kolam is normally done on Sunday, as we're considering, and it is also associated with the festival of Sankranti, which comes in January. And during that month, when the sun begins its northward journey towards equinox, ending the cold winter months. And this, again, we're talking about January. Here, nothing ends. We know that in New England, but actually in other parts of the winter starts receding and the spring starts coming in, right? And for spring, nothing else, but we decided to use the bright colors of spring using Poo Kolam. Now, Poo Kolam is not those traditional 3 kolams that we talked about. Poo Kolam is another intricate and colorful arrangement which is made using flowers. And Poo Kolam consists of 2 words, Poo meaning flower, and Kalam means color sketches on the ground. And it is very auspicious, and you would see huge Poo Kolams drawn during the traditional New Year celebrations in South India. And so we decided to use those colors, and the lotus and mangoes are very symbolic for the spring in India. So now we had to, this is how we brought it all together. And again, those 4 elements were there, broken by the boundaries. Again, we were looking for some colors to kind of get together as to what colors make sense here. As we were looking, I read that most Native Americans named 4 points of the earth, or the 4 directions, north, south, east, and west, and they have assigned colors to each one. And among the Cherokee tribe, north was blue, south was white, east was red, and west was black. And there's a reason behind that. So we decided to use those 4 colors, again, to connect it to the traditional land. Still, something was missing. We still had this white area there. Now, what do we do there? Do we bring in another kolam? What do we do? How do we close it? So again, Gauri is like, go look and give me something more. And as I was thinking as to what would make sense is, no guesses, right? What's this? This is the stained glass window in Morse library. So I got this, I came to Gauri and she gave me this beautiful design, which took the elements of the pine cones, the paisley designs. And if you look at it closely, it also has those elements that we talk about. You can see a snowflake, you can see the diyas. So this all came together, and this all came together as this. This was the final drawing that we submitted to Natick Center Cultural District, or the Traffic Calming Public Art Committee, as our design for doing this public art. We were blessed. We were fortunate that our design got selected and we got approval to do this. But now again, Swati panics because she's not an artist, right? You have to keep remembering Swati is not an artist, right? So what did I do have a plan. I did have a plan as to what do I do when I get selected, because Gauri is in Philippines. Gauri is even not here. So I have a friend and her daughter, Suesha, who is now a junior at Sharon High School. She's a wonderful artist. And so I contacted her and she readily agreed to help me with this project. And there is one more friend of mine called Shuchi Gupta. She's the one who did the Kōlam, and the other three were done by Suesha. And again, as I said, I'm just blessed and fortunate to have found these people who literally brought this dream or the vision of mine in reality. And thank you to all these organizations who supported and came up with this beautiful idea: Natick Center Cultural District, Bar Foundation, Mutual One Foundation, Natick Cultural Council, and Lawrence Lilly Solomon Foundation. Before I close for the day, I really have one important connection again to be made. So I not only think that Kolam are beautiful ethno-mathematical tools, but Kolams are also a beautiful or very thought-provoking anthropological inquiry. So I'm just going to show you these 4 drawings from 4 different parts of the world. Okay, so first one we know it's Kolam. It's from Tamil Nadu. I've been talking about it for 20-25 minutes. And so Kolams are practiced by women. They're drawn on the floor. Knowledge is handed from generation to generation. It has cultural, social, artistic, mathematical, family, and religious connotations. If we look at the one on the left, this art form is from Bujumbura, which is central part of Africa or Republic of Congo now. These are mostly drawn by children, and they play games drawing these figures in the sand. And understanding of this concept is again intrinsic to the children. They just grow up with doing this. And the other one on the right is from Malekula, which is a small island in the Republic of Vanuatu. And these are called as Nightist drawings. And these are drawn by men, again executed in sand. And the knowledge is again handed from generation to generation, like any other indigenous knowledge. And the figures are named from flora and fauna. But sometimes they're also related to some of the myths and some of the rituals. I also read in one of the blogs that they also use it, like if you go to someone's place and that person is not there, you will draw this one of this Nightist drawings and tell them that you are here for what reason, you know, like literally draw and tell, and there's no voice message, right? But you draw it and you come back and then you should tell them that why you were there. Again, a beautiful art form, I would say. And then we have one in Shockwave, which is West Central Bantu area of Africa. These are called as Sona drawings. These are again drawn by men. Now you see the difference. Kolams drawn by women, Bujumbura drawn by children. Night is drawn by men, and there's another one, sonar drawings are again drawn by men. But the use of sonar drawings is mostly as a storytelling tradition. So in the night, the men gather together, the storytellers draw this drawing and then weave a story around these drawings. And again, the knowledge is handed from generation to generation of these whole sonar drawings. People may be adding, subtracting, I don't know what happens to the original stories. And another important connection that again I find very fascinating is Kolam also refers to a kind of dance in Sri Lanka, and it involves masks and complicated steps. And these masks are used in storytelling performances. And Malikulas also have mask dance in which they play out the shapes of sand diagrams. So their steps kind of follow the sand diagrams. So the anthropologists are now wondering if these both are the offshoots of a single monolithic culture, or did the ideas just sprung in different parts of the world, similar ideas sprung in different parts of the world, right? That's always a question, like how did this 4 different types of similar types of art form come up in different parts of the world with a similar design concept, right? For me, I just feel maybe there could be knowledge transfer, but I still feel that somehow these drawings came through doodling, right? Like doodling, what we keep on doodle, maybe they turned into different parts of the world similarly, right? Like again, it's just a possibility. It could be anything. I don't know. Literally, I don't know whether there was a knowledge transfer or whether it was just interesting to every human being or different people in different parts of the world who came up with the similar ideas. Again, if we go back to my original statement, I'm not an artist, but I'm sharing very hesitantly my drawings, which I took up to do the Kolam only during pandemic. As many people tried to find sense doing something which was new to them, I took up doing Kolams. I drew Kolams on paper using pen. I drew Kolams on this. These are my pizza stones, which I did colored with chalkboard colors and used chalks to do that. And again, there is no rhyme or reason. I didn't do it every day. I just did it when I felt like doing it. There wasn't any thought process like I'm going to do a Padi Kolam or a Sikku Kolam, but I did copy them from looking at the internet, what felt for me for doing this. So again, thank you very much for this. Thank you, Natick Historical Society, for giving me a chance to talk about Kolam, the concept of Kolam, how this Kolam came into Natick downtown. And thank you everyone for listening to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Swati. This was fascinating. And thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us. I think that I want to sort of open it up to questions. I've got a few in the chat. If you have questions or comments, please do take a moment and locate the chat speaker bubble. If you'd like to send one my way, I'm happy to share it with Swati. And I'm also happy to raise your hand through that raise hand function, and you can talk with Swati live. So Swati, a couple of questions to get us going here. The Kolam were traditionally done by women. Would it be a particular woman in a household or multiple? Would this ever be a collective, or
it's a collective?
It's a collective.
It could be collective. It could be just one woman going out and doing it. It could be collective, and it could be anything. Yeah.
Okay. And would people erase them every morning to start again, or were they deteriorating by natural forces? In other words, if it were left completely intact by nature, would you swipe it away?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And they're done on the threshold, so sometimes people would just step on it. They would go at the end of the day, you build again. So the idea is, the philosophy is the transient form of that art, right? Like not getting connected to it, not getting attached to it, because there's always another day. And that's the reason I like Kolam, because even if I make mistake, I'm like, it's okay. It's going and it's coming back again tomorrow, you know?
Yeah. 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 You sort of each day you can begin again,
You can begin again. And that's, yeah, it has its life, but that doesn't mean, but for me, what's fascinating is still women put in so much effort and energy, and they do so beautiful columns, big columns, even knowing that they're going to go next day, right? Like totally detached from that art form. It's like just too philosophical, right?
Yeah. Another question here about, could you talk a bit about the difference between Kolam and mandala? And do the patterns have different meaning? And I'm not, is that?
Yeah, mandalas. Mandalas are again a similar form of rangolis or columns. They're usually done around that, like around circles. But again, you do have those intrinsic designs in it. It's mostly, again, it's a different art form. Let's just say that columns and mandalas are different art forms with basic similar philosophy or concept, right?
Yeah. Okay. And Swati, do you remember the first time you encountered Kolam? And can you tell us a little bit about that? Was it do you have a memorable early encounter?
Not really, because you just grew up with rangolis. I mean, the part of India I come from, we call it rangolis, and you just grew up with them. You just grow up seeing rangolis done every day, or not every day, but on festive occasions, and you just grow up doing that. So I don't remember when was the first time I would have seen it,
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a powerful answer in and of itself, right? That it's just sort of part of the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is there any significance to sort of the choice of the different materials that you might use? Chalk, rice flour, any significance to that?
Traditionally, it was rice flour, then it came to the chalk powder, or the powder form. Those are normally used. Chalk is for non-artistic people like me, right? Like who cannot do the flour. Yeah. So you don't normally do with chalks on the thresholds. You either use the rice flour or the chalk or the powder.
And
so you take it in your pinch and then you draw all those things like this. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's fascinating. Yeah. I'm just thinking of the workshop that will be happening on June 11th, and the Bacon Free Library will be, really hosting the workshop. And when we were talking about materials, it's like people, however you engage with the Kolam is how you do it, which is really cool. It's very accessible.
You can do paper and pencil, you can do chalk in this, you can take the powders, you can experiment with everything.
Great. And so let me see here. For children learning Kolam, like, is there any sort of instruction, formal instruction for children in how to do this, or is it sort of something taught generationally, or can you speak to that?
Not generational, like you just see your mothers, grandmothers, aunts doing it, and then again, there may be family Kolam books also, like people just having those art forms in the paper, like drawing it on paper, keeping it, preserving it from moving from one generation to another. So it's, again, as I said, but for somebody who's not been introduced to this art form right from the beginning, I would suggest that start with simple fully columns like 3x3, 5x5, 7x7, the way I start with my, when I teach math, right? Like when I use this to teach math. So again, Do you want to draw a square? Do you want to draw a hexagon? Whatever you want to draw, and how do you want to connect? And what are the shapes that you want to do, right? So you go about doing it. And for Padi Kolam, which is a free form, like you do not have those guided dots there. But kids do, I mean, it's how you're developing it. So for Padi Kolam, the system would be draw the center point and then add geometric elements to it, right? Like, and now I'm really breaking this art form very analytically, which is not supposed to be done, but that's what I'm talking about. For Puli columns, you draw the dots and then decide what do you see? What do you see? And you connect that. For Sikku column, again, that one single continuous line is every person starts differently as to how you see it, right? But the idea is it has to be a single continuous line where the line does not trace back. So from here comes the graph theory, which is again math, right?
Yeah. This just makes me want to start trying to make a column. Cool. So I have a few more questions here about the Kolam and Natick Center. What's happening with it and the installation, and do you know about its future? Is it how long it will stay there? And are there plans to do more Kolam and Natick?
Again, I'm not an artist. I just need to find artists to do this, right? So the one that has been done there is still existing there. You can go back and look at that with new lens now that you understand what's the concept or what's the significance of each one. And I haven't heard any plans of that being like erased or something. So as long as the nature allows it to be, I think it's going to be there.
Yeah. And this is sort of a related question, is how was that created? How was it applied? What materials were used to do the column that is
paint. We used paint.
Okay. Okay. How long did it take?
Suisha was really good. Suisha was good, but still she took like each column must have taken something like 5 to 8 hours, maybe. I think 5 to 10.
Wow. Wow. And if this is me here, but how did she do that in one, sort of
so
one sitting?
So each column was kind of done at one go, because that's the idea, right? Like Sikku column, you cannot break it. So you draw it, like first thing she did was with the chalk, and then we painted it. But she was the one, and she had one of her friends helping her with that. I just helped with the borders. That was the only thing I could do. And putting in colors,
But your hand was in there. That's the fun part. So, and do you know whether there are columns in other communities in the Commonwealth or nearby? I mean, how unique is this sort of in the local area?
This is the first, I would say. It's the first, and as far as I know, the only one in the Commonwealth area.
Wow.
Yep.
And what kind of response do you have a sense of the response that it's received? Can you talk about sort of how people are reacting to it? I mean, maybe I don't know how you would get a sense of that, right? Because there's not.
When we were doing it, when we were creating it, there was definitely a very enthusiastic and inquisitive response as to what are you doing, what's this art form, and how are you connecting it. So there were a lot of questions, because it wasn't simple, right? Like, what are they doing here, right?
Yeah.
So at that point of time, there's a lot of questions, but I haven't heard anything other than that. Like when I was actually present there, like people talking about it, people wanting to know more about it, people really happy that something like this is coming to Natick. I did get quite a very enthusiastic, supportive responses when we did it.
Okay, that's great. That's lovely to hear. And I wonder if it will inspire other communities to bring Kolam to their,
Yeah, so I was invited by Acton Rotary to talk about this, our project. And I
that's
did make a
wonderful.
presentation to them, and they were thinking of doing something. I don't know where it landed.
That's wonderful. And I also have a note in here that there are no plans to change the Kolam art in Natick Center. So hooray for that, and keep it as long as it's possible. And I have a math question for you here, Swati, and whether you think that in thinking about the workshops and teaching Kolam, is it a tool or a style or a practice that would help children sort of overcome math-related fears? That kids can kind of get math anxiety. Do you see this as a way of assuaging?
Yes, so I have Gauri and I have like a 4-hour workshop sessions designed, and we have conducted this for kids in Europe, and the kids were in Germany, Netherlands, and they were so excited about it because most of them think they're drawing, like they can be. And again, I'm not even talking about the difference between the left and the right brain, but sometimes the students are excited about the art and they don't realize that how is the math intricate, like, interwoven in that. So you're not asking them questions, they're just drawing this 5 by 5, and then you're starting the questions like 5 by 5. How many dots did you draw? You do 25 dots. What is it? 5 square. Why is it square? So, you just kind of put in there together the triangular shapes and the symmetry and the fractals. I don't think that we have to teach them. They understand or they see it. It's like seeing math. Right? It's like it's no longer
visualization.
it's no longer an abstract thing. They're looking at it and understanding what's happening there, right? Yeah. Like, what are the different types of geometric shapes you use? How many did you use? Count by twos, count by, you start at any time.
Yeah. Oh, that's a beautiful way to think about it. It's sort of a way into a whole world of mathematics that can be pretty powerful.
And the intersectionality between the math and the art, right? Like, where people keep on saying like math is beautiful, but no one ever shows how is math beautiful. And people are like, no, differential equations are not beautiful, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. And Swati, a couple questions, particularly for you. Is Kolam part of your daily practice, perhaps since COVID? And do you have a dream next project that you're thinking about?
Kolam is not my everyday practice, but I do create kolams on specific or on festivals. I do make a plan, like, to do some things. And the other days, it's just like, some days feel like doing it. I just kind of, or I see something, I want to do it, but it's not like I'm doing it as a ritual or everyday practice. And about the project, I don't know. I really don't know.
We'll have to have you back to talk about your dream next project when you figured that out.
Maybe, but yeah, my answer is I don't know. But if the opportunity comes, I would really take it.
Good. Question about classes. Are there Kolam classes for children that you're aware of, and where might they be found?
I'm not aware of, but whoever is asking, I can teach them. Like, I can guide them.
Okay, so you'll let me know if you want to be put in touch, and I'm happy to make that happen. I'm speaking to the chat, but that's great. And finally, Swati, I think we would ask, it's interesting that you talked a lot about the Kolam as kind of infographics, right? That they can communicate something, which is really powerful. And so, what do you feel like the Kolam and Natick Center communicates to the community, right? The people who encounter it.
I think it's a wonderful, as we said, it's a wonderful cultural marker. And it does give me personally, it does give me a sense of belonging. It shows that I've been accepted. It just gives me a sense of belonging, and it just makes me feel at home to see that the Kolams that I grew up back in India are still here with me. It's just, and that's for me personally. I'm not sure about others, but I'm sure most of the people from India, from that part of it, would find it like, even like, oh, this is what I grew up with. This is a native downtown. This is my home now, right?
Yeah. What a beautiful accomplishment, and congratulations to the cultural district and all the people who sort of played a role in making that happen. And I'll just say so many lovely notes and thanks to you for all of your work. And this has been fascinating, loving the insights, and thanks so much for all you do for our community, and learned a lot. And so lots of lovely messages coming in through the chat, and you are amazing, Swati. That's a direct quote. Yeah. And so I think with that, we'll just be very gracious, and on behalf of the Natick Historical Society and the Bacon Free Library, and don't forget to come out to the Create Your Own Kolam workshop in 11 days, right? You can look at either the website of the Bacon Free Library or the Natick Historical Society to learn more about that event. And we thank you so much for your time, Swati. Truly, it's been a pleasure.
And just a note, to teach Kolam will have Suesha. So don't be afraid that I'm not going to teach. People are going to, Suesha will be there to guide us. And it'll be a wonderful workshop to really try it. And, if I can draw, everyone can. I'm telling you.
Great. So we'll see lots of you on the 11th then.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.